My name's Esther. I actually work as a volunteer counsellor for a sexual abuse agency that deals with abuse from childhood trauma. In total, I've been working for about 4 years. Um, Firstly started with bereavement and then in drug and alcohol and now in sexual abuse. I think everyone's story is different. There's always other things besides that as well, and obviously sort of attachment issues growing up, different sort of things that have happened in their lives will actually affect them. And there's some people that are stronger than others and that might be able to cope in a lot of a better way.
Okay.
Or some people can hide it well. So it is actually sort of bringing it out and gaining the trust to be able for them to move on. I think a lot of the trauma is based around shame and blame. Um, they're the two things that come up repetitively. I think that they take on the shame even though they're not at fault.
It's quite a heavy set job where you're sort of almost taking on a lot of
Some of the stories can be really heavy. Something that you wouldn't even think could exist, and it's not in how you would actually think. We hear all these stories about scenarios, but some of it is just you can't put words to how someone can go through something like that. So it's hard, but it's very rewarding. Well, originally 1 in 4 actually was actually developed in Ireland. The reason it was called 1 in 4 was because perhaps they believed that at least 1 in 4 people were sexually abused in Ireland, whether through the churches, the convents, and various things. The run up to the first book is all about the religious side of things.
For the RSA, they said that it wasn't just obviously recovering from childhood sexual abuse. It was also restoring faith, because they'd always lost belief in
Yeah,
themselves.
well, I had that in the bereavement agency as well. You do get people that they think I'm praying to God for help, and then this is happening, and it is they've lost everything, especially if it's in a lot of those cases it's someone very close to them as well. So especially if it's someone that they're living with, if it's a parent or someone close every day, or then maybe going to church and something happening there. So obviously it's not just one person that's let them down. It's two. So yeah, there's a lot of people that give up faith because of things like that.
Has there been anything in particular that's made you want to help people?
With the drug and alcohol, other people, and even myself when I was younger, drank to cope. So I suppose that's what made me get into that sort of area. But there's always something, and I suppose my mum and my dad died when I was young, so and I know how it affected my mum. So I think that's what sort of brought me into the bereavement piece of it. So yeah, there's personal stuff in there as well. I do a lot of personal development, and I have the opportunity of being trained by one of the top ladies in the profession, because she is actually linked to our agency. She writes books and she trains police officers, etc. Yeah, there's times that you can't help but get attached, but I think the more you do it, the more you're able to sort of separate it. But at the same time, you have to have good supervision. I believe you have to have supervision, especially with something like this, because there is things that you can't go home sometimes and leave that. And I know that I've got a good supervisor that I can just phone up if I felt difficulty in anything, sort of just to get it off my chest. It really, I think.
Has there been an experience that you've had that you've made you think that being a counsellor is really worthwhile?
I think every experience I've had with every client has made it worthwhile to me. It's good. It's good to see, because obviously you're looking at it's been perhaps years that they've been with this thing, and I've only been with them maybe for that year, and I can already see several changes. So it proves that it can work if someone's there to listen and not judge, I think.
Yeah.
I get a lot of satisfaction when I can see how clients move on from the initial first session that we have, and then sort of sessions as you go along, and you can see how they begin to trust somebody again, and I feel honoured that I can sort of bring that trust out in them.
Yeah, that's good. Would you say that volunteering is quite a good way of almost like being able to touch on experiences and draw on new learning?
I must be the best volunteer in the South East London.
We have that on film.
Both. I think both can be difficult. Drug and alcohol obviously can be challenging because the people can be challenging, and especially if they are sort of still on medication or something, and maybe have had a drink and might not appear drunk to you when they come in. Obviously, we breathalyse them. But with the abuse, I think the challenge is because what's happened to them people isn't a choice, where the other things are.
Yeah.
but they can be quite difficult to get to, especially in that 12 weeks. They're very sort of not wanting to trust and then go. So that's challenging. My mind is always wanting to know more, and I always end up doing something else, even if it's for a little time.
Would you say that volunteering is quite a good way of almost like being able to touch on experiences and draw new learning?
I must be the best volunteer in the South East London.
We have that on film.
When you first go in, you couldn't actually take a job there if you were only doing a first year level training. You have to have a bit more experience, so they generally ask that you have about 2 years experience before you do that.
You're addicted to
My
learning.
my addiction is to learning, but